SOGP, talking about the QB, Jaxson Dart, and what it means as we continue to work towards his fourth game as a starter and the rest of this season. Where does he rank? This is a classic Andrew Makowitz, thought process that he starts to dive into year over year, going back to maybe even when Eli Manning, it was like, where does Eli Manning still rank as he becomes a veteran? Then it was Daniel Jones, and who would you take? Now we're at the point of Jaxson Dart and Andy starting to noodle on. Who would you take him over now as you look at the NFL landscape?
Yeah, watching that game Thursday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles and seeing the command that Jaxson Dart had and everyone being excited walking out of the stadium, naturally you kind of sit there and say, do we have our guy? Do we think that he's the guy moving forward? And if he is, like, wow, he's looked pretty good. Like, where does he rank? Like, where would you take him? And so I started thinking league wide. There's a lot of young quarterbacks. There's obviously a handful of aging quarterbacks. So you look at Joe Flacco and Aaron Rodgers slinging the ball all around. But it got me thinking, where do you place Jaxson Dart in terms of who would you rather have going into, say, next season, game one for the entire season? And just to give a frame of reference, we know who the best quarterbacks are in the league. Obviously, if you look at total QBR on ESPN, we know who's number one, right, Adam?
Yeah, it's Phil Collins. No,
No,
Patrick
no,
Mahomes.
as we all thought, it's obviously Daniel Jones, the number one total QBR quarterback in the league, just like every Giants fan has suspected over years and years of watching him. And of course, number two is Sam Darnold, which we all thought a couple years ago when he was like getting released by Carolina. And then we go into the Patrick Mahomeses and the others of the world.
And
So,
Baker Mayfield's up there in that.
yeah, I mean, Baker Mayfield's of the world. So, Adam, I'll start, I guess, with, you can pick your poison here. There's a handful of guys I was thinking about starting this conversation with, but let's just start with one in terms of Michael Penix Jr. Atlanta quarterback, was considered a top 10, was a 10 top 10 pick last year. Giants passed on him and everyone said that's crazy and got drafted by the Falcons. Would you rather have Michael Penix moving forward or Jaxson Dart?
As of right now, I'd say Jaxson Dart, as a Giants fan, because, and again, your eyes are right here in front of you. You're seeing that action. And I think one of the reasons you talk about with Penix Jr. came out a little bit older, 25 years old. So I'm going to go on. I got a 22-year-old. I'll be thinking about evaluating him over the next 3 years, even when we're going toe to toe with Michael Penix Jr. And obviously, they got a lot of weapons there, too. So, when you have that many weapons, you expect to see more earlier success. Penix has been good. He hasn't been bad by any stretch. A lot of pressure on him, a lot of throws. I would take Jaxson Dart over him.
Yeah, I think, I know that the lefty or righty shouldn't really matter, but it's more traditional setup and everything else. It's like, for me, the tie goes to the more traditional play calls and things like that. The next one I'm going to do, you can pick your avenue here because I kind of am putting these two in the same regard, even though they're not. Carolina quarterback Bryce Young or throw in the mix Kyler Murray of the Arizona Cardinals. Where would you put Jaxson Dart with those two quarterbacks?
Well, okay, so I know it's like a caveat, but it's like, where would I put him? There's a full body of work for Kyler Murray. A lot of good, some bad, right? Some concerning, undersized, etc. Same thing now with Bryce Young. We thought that it was maybe over, like fully and completely. And then this year you go, okay, he actually looks like he can play NFL quarterback, and you can continue to develop him. I would take Jaxson Dart over Bryce Young right now. If we're talking about the rest of their career, and I think when we were talking about this off podcast, it was if we're talking about week one next season, who do you want your quarterback to be? You have to take away contracts and take away everything and just say the skill of the quarterback. I think there'd be a real conversation about Kyler Murray, and I'll tell you specifically why, though. It's not even about whether or not I think he can be productive and successful because we've seen some of that. It's because Jaxson Dart seems to already show leadership and already show command of locker room and already show that the team like galvanizes around him. Kyler Murray, kind of like the way we heard about Tua, he's calling meetings and no one's showing up. Like that does matter. So maybe it'd be a lot closer than I would think. And again, I hate doing this 3 games into Jaxson Dart's career. Like that's really hard for me. And so I know you have another couple maybe you're going to get to. Let me throw one back to you. Because Jaxson Dart right now has a 59.8 QBR. That's good for 17th in the league. It's heavily weighted on the 90 QBR that he had in the Philadelphia Eagles game. Would you take him or Spencer Rattler, who has a 60.3 QBR this season?
Yeah, well, I would take Jaxson Dart over Spencer Rattler, even though they played against each other, and Spencer Rattler ended up coming out on top. But can I keep in mind that was Spencer Rattler's first win of his career, and he was 0 for 10 or 0 for, well, whatever it was prior to
Yeah.
that. Like that was like one game, and you don't want to take away any singular play, but if he doesn't hit, Shaheed over the middle for an 80-yard,
Of course.
9-yard touchdown, it feels like that game is a completely different game anyway.
And I do that tongue in cheek because it's just like that sample of course I would take Jackson Dart over Spencer Rattler, right? For a million different reasons. But Spencer Rattler's played all season on a very bad football team. They have some pretty good weapons offensively, obviously. But when you go and you look at those numbers, you go, oh, so he's actually not playing terrible football. The results are bad because the team is bad right now. And I think it's something that's worth keeping in mind. The other one that I would probably throw out to you, because then I'm going to do a quick runoff here, but Caleb Williams would be the other one that I would throw out to you. Who would you take? Jackson Dart, Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I think at this point I would take Caleb Williams because we saw so much good athleticism and work at
Yeah.
USC, and then I kind of chalk up the coaching to being the big problem last season.
Chicago, not too different from the Giants, like just been a mess as you draft a
Right.
young quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah, like you look at the coaching staff, it didn't really help Caleb Williams. Now you see an offensive-minded coach giving him structure, telling him to get the ball out, and it looks much better. To me, Adam, I think, and I'll you can go rapid fire after this, but to me, the question is like there are some known commodities, and we know what their highest level of play is, or we kind of see where it tops out at. Kyler Murray kind of tops out at like a fringe playoff team, maybe
Yeah.
get in, and like you hope
Yeah.
for the best, but he is undersized. He does get injured quite a bit. And you talk about the leadership thing, that might be a question mark there. You look at a guy like Tua Tagovailoa, who's been in the league for a while. He's been to the playoffs. It's like, but he's like kind of the same. He's like the AFC version of Kyler Murray, where it's like, I think his ceiling is just getting in the playoffs, but you don't think that he's going to win. So really the question that we're asking is like, are you okay with getting 8 wins a year and having a guy that can maybe sneak it to 9, maybe to 10 and get you in the playoffs? Or are you looking for a
Sure.
guy that may have a lower floor but has a higher ceiling is what we're kind of trying to speculate on Jackson Dart.
And I think by the end of the season, we can have that conversation. We look across the league and go, if you swapped, once we get the full body of work on Jackson Dart, if you swapped him with quarterback X, what would it look like, right? Maybe Miami's a good example of, would it look different, a little more dynamic, a little more, a little more physical, whatever the case may be. There's going to be two names that we're going to talk about after I do rapid fire because I think they're very germane to this conversation as we build towards Denver on Sunday. I'm going to go just by the way the QBR stand right now, right? Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott, Sam Darnold, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson injured right now. Jared Goff, Drake May, Baker Mayfield, Jordan Love, Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud, Matthew Stafford, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, and then you get to the Caleb Williams, Spencer Rattler, and Jackson Dart. Everybody I listed above him, for the most part, I think you'd go, yep, taking him over Jackson Dart, right? Maybe some debatables about career-long projection, but right now, you would take all those guys. You would also throw into the mix someone like Jaden Daniels, whose QBR is a little bit lower right now. After that, anyone we talk about like a Trevor Lawrence, taking Jackson Dart. There's nobody else really in this mix to me inside of that whole group. So that puts Jackson Dart right now is like if you're like, hey man, we're excited, we're gonna fire off this season, we're feeling good about it. He's probably right in the middle. He's probably right in the middle of the QB class right now in the NFL, which is really impressive coming off of only 3 games. It demands that he continues to grow and show that he can do it consistently. But that's the kind of sample size he's given in 3 games, and it's more than wins and losses and some of the stats. It's the eye test, and I think that matters when we look at it. The last 2 guys that we'll talk about here, Andy, I'm gonna give your name out here, but I want to put one into it as we lead up to Sunday against the Denver Broncos, and that's Cam Ward. Right now, I don't know. I have not gone and watched Cam Ward. Tennessee's an absolute disaster. They fired the head coach. Like they're trying to figure it out. If he's probably the one only example where I'd go, it hasn't looked great to start, but I still might take Cam Ward based on the pedigree coming out of college and saying, I believe once you get a good structure in place, you're going to see how good Cam Ward can be, even though right now he is a terrible QBR at 25.1. I would at least say, like, I can't determine whether or not Cam Ward should be in the conversation where he should live, right? In the same way that you'd hate to judge Jackson Dart coming off of the game against the Saints, right?
Yeah, well, so Cam Ward is last in the league in QBR with a 25.1. Number 31 in the league is Russell Wilson of the Giants, who already got benched. The delta between how
Yeah.
Russell Wilson and Cam Ward were in terms of the difference in QBR is the difference between being the
Yeah.
first ranked QBR guy and the eighth ranked QBR guy. So, like, the gap between how bad Cam Ward has played is significant,
Yep.
but
Yep.
it's only been a small sample size. It feels very Caleb Williams-esque, where it's like, we didn't have the right coach. It was a tire fire to begin with. what, like, we need a full reset to
Exactly.
actually know what we're getting from this guy. So I kind of put a question mark around Cam Ward to be determined. Like,
Yep.
they were drafted in the same class, 20 something picks apart from each other. Is 6 games enough for, or, 6 games of Cam Ward, a handful of games for Jaxson Dart enough for you to change your mind? I don't know yet, so I might pump the brakes on that one.
There you go. The last but not least is, of course, Sunday, Denver Broncos, Mile High Stadium. Bo Nix came out obviously older coming out of college, but he got in there, and Sean Payton wanted him. This was his guy. He's 25 years old. So far on the season, we talked about this in our game preview. Maybe hasn't played some of the best teams in the world, but he's gone QBRs of 20.3, 73.6, 41.4, 79.1, 60.2, and then last week against the Jets defense, who's trying to find something here, a 37.2. So, I mean, he does have 3 games on the season that you would call quality QBR ratings coming against Philly, Cincinnati, and the Indianapolis Colts, who do have a pretty strong defense there. I'll let you lead this, Andy, because I think this is the big debate for you. A guy that's having a good year, a pretty good year, a guy that has a good team with a winning record.
So I will go ahead and say it depends. I
Oh,
think this is
Andy, how way to plant your flag.
it's I think this one is more nuanced because I think Sean Payton with the combination of Bo Nix works amazingly well. An older older young quarterback
Yeah.
who
Yep.
is extremely cerebral. He doesn't have the strongest arm in the world. He's not the most athletic quarterback, but he can throw the ball relatively well. He can use his legs if he needs to, but I think he's
We're not
already
far
a
off from
known,
like describing Drew Brees when Sean Payton was in New Orleans.
but
Like
literally.
Drew Brees more athletic, I would say, but like, did he have the strongest arm? No. Would he give everything in his entire being to uncork one? Of course he would, right?
Yeah, Sean Payton wants a quarterback that he knows, like, I give you the play, we're on the same mindset, and just get the ball out and distribute it where it needs to be. And that works for their system. If you are asking, like, which quarterback has the higher upside to be able to change a franchise or is independent of the coaching that he has, like, hey, I could plug this guy into Buffalo or I could plug this guy into another system,
Yeah.
then I would probably take Jaxson Dart. So I think that one's a little tough. We've only seen a couple games from Jaxson Dart, but the beautiful thing is, we're going to get a small sample size of them being on the same field, being able to figure this out when the Giants end up playing the Broncos.
Bo Nix, a little bit lower in completion percentage this year, down from 66.3 to 64.6. And then also QBR 53.5 a year ago, 50.8. I mean, he's right in there. He's right in that kind of wheelhouse, right? And he's living lower down the list in terms of QBR in the NFL right now. And to your point in this whole QB conversation, it probably is about portability of your skill set, right? How many quarterbacks would you look and say? So, for example, we just talked about Cam Ward. If you put Cam Ward on the Denver Broncos with Sean Payton as the head coach, I don't know where he would be, but I know he'd be better. Like, I know it would all be better if you had Sean Payton and that system and everything that goes with that. If you took Bo Nix and dropped him into Tennessee, you'd be talking about him maybe like Will Levis, who also in Tennessee was like, wow, this guy must be an absolute disaster, can't play football, right? And we've actually had a lot of examples of QBs, Baker Mayfield maybe being the prime right now as he's playing top 5 QB football, MVP level football, of being, boy, when you are in the wrong location with the wrong staff and the wrong system and it's just not there for you, it can make you look pedestrian or average at best. And then when you go someplace good, you can see the full potential. That matters for quarterbacks, and it's why we still look at Brian Dable and Joe Shane and the Giants organization with a critical eye saying, if we think that Jaxson Dart can be one of those guys, we need to make sure that you are those guys to build around him and have him have success. Hey, we got another bonus one coming up. Check out when we talk about the wide receiver room and what the New York Football Giants should be thinking about doing when it comes to the trade deadline. And of course, go look at our preview of the upcoming matchup, breaking down all the key aspects of the game in Mile High Stadium against the Denver Broncos. Until next time, till the best times, Andrew Makowitz wants, needs, and nay demands that people know.
As always, let's go Big Blue.